There have been fears of a third world war ever since the second one ended. Obviously, it seemed most likely to occur during the Cold War, which would last from 1947 till 1991. And although there has yet to be a third world war, it seems if these two countries did end up going to war, it would certainly lead to the world getting involved. But there's much more to it than just that. Which countries would be more heavily involved? Who would be the first to use nuclear warfare, if at all? It seems there's one question that can answer all of these questions. Today on Life's Biggest Questions, we're asking, what if America goes to war with North Korea? Welcome to LBQ, guys. I'm your host, Jared Bronstein, and today, as you can see, we're talking about war. Good God. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Make sure you guys stick around to the very end of this one for some comment replies, and let me know what you guys think would happen if America did go to war with North Korea. For now, let's get right into it and talk about how everything starts in the first place. Given Kim Jong Un's current condition, which, depending on who you ask, is either alive and well, recovering from surgery, or dead, there's been talks of what may happen next. Now, it seems more likely he's recovering from a surgery, as of this recording, but if America and North Korea were to go to war today, things would get quite messy, very quickly. Obviously, it wouldn't be in North Korea's best interest to ever go to war with the United States, considering how they are known to have the most powerful military, with an estimated spending of approximately $732 billion. In comparison, China, who ranks second in the world, is believed to have spent approximately $261 billion. And India was behind them, spending approximately $71.1 billion. As you can clearly see, even the top two countries in the world behind the United States haven't spent much, at least in comparison. So where does North Korea stand in regards to the military spending? They're way down at number 47 worldwide with $3.6 billion. That being said, spending doesn't necessarily determine how strong your military is. As North Korea has reminded the rest of the world many times, they do have nuclear artillery as well as ballistic missiles, which can reach various lengths. However, before a war is officially declared, something would need to happen. Over the years, there have been empty threats, tons of presidential meetings, and lots of nothing. Although there may be some sort of progress in regards to relations, although that appears to change like the wind, for a war to start, someone would need to attack. Given that the United States is the more powerful country, if they were to attack first, the UN would certainly have something to say. Although they aren't the fondest of North Korea, they wouldn't allow the United States to just go in and attack them. Other countries would speak out against this as well, considering how if the United States goes to war, so do their allies. And considering how the United States is allied with countless countries, NATO involves 30 countries alone, including Spain, France, Germany, Canada, the UK, the list goes on. And plenty of these countries have actually shown they're not afraid to leave the United States, or more specifically President Trump, when he does something they don't like. Most recently, this was evident when he asked allies, including the UK, France, and Germany, to withdraw from the 2015 nuclear deal, something they all refused to do. However, if it came to war and the United States called on the help of allies, I find it incredibly hard to believe they would not help. Not that it would necessarily lead to the United States losing by any means, but more so the repercussions afterward of said countries not helping would certainly lead to bigger problems. Aside from this, there are other allies that aren't a part of world treaties or simply other countries that would see the demise of North Korea, or at least their current regime, as a good thing. However, that means the opposite would be true as well, and there would be countries that may see the United States going to war with North Korea as a good opportunity to attack the world's most powerful country. It's possible China and Russia get involved, siding with North Korea if they do in fact decide to team up in the first place. Now, this idea does seem a little far-fetched, and it isn't very likely, but it seems nowadays anything is possible. But before any of this happens, as previously mentioned, there would need to be an attack of some kind to provoke war. Whether that means there is an attack on US soil, similar to the events that took place on September 11th, 2001, or possibly a US embassy is attacked overseas, the only way these countries would go to war would be if the United States had a reason to retaliate. Looking at both scenarios, if there was an attack on US soil, then it's much more likely the allies of the US are willing to help out. Possibly out of fear that their country could be targeted next, or simply to show their allegiance, North Korea would officially become public enemy number one to the majority of the world. Not to say they aren't already, but you guys get what I'm saying. The type of attack could be anything really, although it's unlikely they actually succeed with their attempt. If North Korea were to fire one of their missiles, for example, if they're even able to reach US soil, the military would not only track it, but stop it way before it got remotely close. This alone would warrant a serious response from the US military, as well as other nations. The other possible scenario, as previously mentioned, is that a US embassy is targeted in another country. This would obviously lead to that country getting involved, and depending on their best interests, would either side with the US or North Korea respectively. However, given the firepower the United States has, as well as their allies, it doesn't seem like a war with North Korea would last very long. And truthfully, with an attack in mind, they would probably be aware of that as well. The reason for the attack could be to show that they aren't weak during a time when their leader is possibly on his way out. There's also the possibility that Kim dies and his sister, Kim Jong Un, takes over and wants to prove to the extremely socially conservative country that she is just as much of a force as her brother. With speculation that she may be next in line to take over the country, should anything happen to Kim Jong Un, many have wondered how North Korea would handle a woman in power. And with that in mind, if Kim Yo-jong did inherit the title of leader of North Korea, she would want to prove herself sooner than later. And rather than start a war she knows the country would lose, she may decide to show the world how powerful her country really is. Clearly, I'm getting at her opting to use nuclear weaponry. Now, by doing so, she would obviously start a nuclear war, which would most likely lead to the United States destroying the country of North Korea. This would also interest Russia, who may decide they want to partner up with North Korea and attack the United States. We also can't forget Iran is still upset that President Trump ordered the assassination of one of their top generals, Soleimani, and it's likely they would be more than happy to join the anti-USA train. I mean, they're already on board, but I'm saying in regards to attacking the US. Of course, we also can't forget about China, who may have interest as well. This would lead to an all-out Third World War, with countries all over getting involved and officially declaring war with one another. However, the likelihood of this is slim to none. The last thing any country would want, even North Korea, is an all-out nuclear war. Even if Kim Yo-jong did take over for her now deceased brother, hypothetically of course, she probably wouldn't resort to nukes to show dominance. That being said, the country's new leader, who would make history being the first female to lead the country, would need to make a statement of some kind. And knowing that her country wouldn't stand much of a chance against the United States, maybe she launches an attack she knows would lead to a short-term war that would lead to few casualties, but still prove she is to be feared more so than her predecessors. Although Kim Jong Un has launched test missiles, as they've been called in the past, going against recommendations of other countries, it seems they're simply just trying to scare the world with possible empty threats. I can't say for sure, but considering how they've talked about how powerful their military is, but have yet to do much, it seems like we're headed for a Cuban Missile Crisis all over again. And that could also be the type of war that happens. A Cold War Part 2, if you will. When people think of war, they tend to think of mass casualties, guns, grenades, explosions, the gulag, you know, the stuff you see on TV and in video games. However, they aren't always necessarily as eventful. Experts predict given our current conflict with Russia, it's possible another Cold War, or something similar, happens sooner than later. So who's to say it can't happen with North Korea? Regardless of whether or not Kim Jong Un is in power, who's to say the countries don't end up going back and forth, threatening each other with what they could potentially do? I mean, that's kind of what's been going on, and although technically there were only 44 US casualties due to the Cold War, the proxy wars killed hundreds of thousands, if not millions. The Cold War was responsible for the Vietnam War, the Korean War, as well as countless other conflicts, including the current conflict in the Middle East involving Israel, Palestine, and a handful of other countries. So as you could see, regardless of the type of war, unfortunately, it seems there always ends up being casualties. Even the Cold War, which in itself didn't technically cause many casualties, led to other conflicts which have gone down to be some of the worst in history. So to wrap this one up, I think it's safe to say regardless of how it initially happens, or who is controlling North Korea, if America were to declare a war, things would get ugly. In the end, the United States, having an incredibly strong military, wouldn't have much trouble winning the war, assuming Russia and China don't get involved. That being said, numerous innocent civilians would inevitably lose their lives, as is the case with any war. Countries that did get involved and were on the winning side would most likely see a boost in their economy, and it would be interesting to see which countries form new alliances, or at least attempt to, when all is said and done. Of course, the odds of this happening anytime soon are slim to none, considering how there currently is a pandemic that's taken over the world. The last thing anyone would want is to go to war, even if it would only last a short period of time. Then again, I don't think people ever want to go to war. Either way, let me know your thoughts on this one in the comments down below. For now, let's reply to some comments from the video. Is Kim Jong Un in hiding? Sarah said, is Kim Jong Un working with the SCP Foundation? Imagine that. I think that would be like the pinnacle of this channel. Like, what if Kim Jong Un was an SCP? I think that should be. I think that's the next video, guys. Imagine. I want to do it. I think that'd be a fun one. I don't know how you guys feel, but you know, if you guys want to see it, I would love to do it. Paul Hagen said he's getting a new haircut. That's the one thing about Kim. His hair always looks great. You know, his sides are always shaven, always combed over to the side. The man knows how to, the man knows how to be well groomed, at least when it comes to his hair. Domo Bro said Kim is playing hide and seek with the world. Maybe he's just hiding out with like Tupac, maybe he's just hanging out with all like Biggie, Tupac, and Kim. They're just jamming. Anyways, guys, I'm gonna wrap this one up. Things are getting a little crazy on this side, so gonna end it on that note. My name's been Jared Bronstein. You guys have been watching LBQ. We'll see you guys in the next video.